Hey, welcome back to another HVAC Success Secrets Revealed with Thaddeus and Evan, where we have good conversations with good people, and any good conversation worth having is worth having drunk.
Cheers, buddy.
Good to see you.
Mm-hmm.
I know our guest isn't drinking with us today, but that's okay. We'll make up for it.
Iced tea. I got two right beside me, so know your limit, stay within it. But yeah, no, look, I'm excited to have Colleen on the show today. I know we've been chatting, her and I, back and forth a little bit. I got her back from Italy. Now she's jumping on. I think she went from one hotel room to the next. And look, just a fascinating story of getting into the trades and like working with a 63-year-old contracting company, right? That's their family business, been around for 63 years, and a 23-year-old marketing company, also a family business. So I'm excited to dive into that. Hopefully I didn't take anything away from what you're going to say, Evan.
No, I mean, Colleen's been entrenched in the industry for a long time. She understands it really well. And on top of that, she gives back on such a high level, especially to the women in the trades. You know, she's the past president of Women in HVACR. She just got back from Italy and speaking with the international company now, InWIC, sorry. Yeah, I'm very excited for the conversation today. Definitely promote the Women HVACR. Can't wait for that event. I had a blast in Phoenix last year, and I know we're going to have a lot of fun this year in Jacksonville. So, But we wouldn't have this show if it weren't for our sponsors. And we do have a new sponsor this week. Shout out to
CHIIRP Real Time. So you list them all before we get into the readouts.
Yeah.
Okay. Just make sure. Normally that's my role.
I know.
Okay.
Shout out to Real Time 360, our newest sponsor, as well as Profit Rocket and CHIIRP. We'll start off with the new guys. Real Time 360. Are you tired of juggling multiple marketing tools and agencies owning your logins? Say goodbye to the frustration and take control of your marketing with Real Time 360. Streamline your reviews, automate your social media, engage customers, live chat, track your success all in one place. The thing that I absolutely love about it is the fact that it gives owners and contractors the ability to own their own shit and take total control over their marketing and results, and be able to share access out to agencies instead of the agencies owning the access themselves. So check out Real Time 360, and they will be going live later on this month.
Yep. I was going to pull up their URL, but I realized that I didn't have it. It's Real Time 360. I can't remember if it's .com or .io. .io. So there we go. Realtime360.io. Got it. Nailed it. The other one, CHIIRP. So CHIIRP is a phenomenal platform in terms of the adding in an automation toolbox to help home service companies out. Direct integrations to Service Titan, House Call Pro, Jobber, Sarah, automated text messages, ringless voicemails, rehash programs. In fact, Dave signed up and in his first month added $42,000 in revenue to his business just with CHIIRP. Cassie, and in 1 month, Cassie signed up and added $80,000 in revenue in just 14 days. I recently saw, I think it was Ryan Gens was on. Ryan, I'm mixing up the names here, but CEO of CHIIRP, Ryan Fenn, was interviewing a company that they added $1 million in revenue in CHIIRP since February, just with CHIIRP, $1 million. Check them out, chirp.com/HSSR. You can get 25% off your first 3 months.
Fortune is in the follow-up. It's huge. And last but not least, we've got Profit Rocket. Look, if you're an HVAC owner, plumbing, electrical, and you own your company, you want to grow the not just top line revenues, but bottom line profits, then you need to check out the Profit Rocket Business Blueprint. It is incredible. It's got everything that you're going to need in terms of P&Ls, SOPs, understanding all of that, marketing plans, call processes, and so much more. Go check it out at callprofitrocket.com. And of course, we've got the Growth Summit that is coming up this September 27th to 29th in Austin, Texas. Can't wait to be there. We've got Marcus Luttrell. We've got Amanda Triolo. Of course, Michelle and Victor will be there. Dan Antonelli, Lance Bachman, Kenny Burns, Lawrence Castillo, Hunter Cloudus. The list goes on and on. Joe Sarah, of course, will be there as well. The speaker list is phenomenal. I can't wait for this event in Austin.
Gonna be fun.
Check them out at callprofitrocket.com.
Now, on with the show.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to HVAC Success Secrets Revealed, a show where we interview industry leaders and disruptors, revealing the success secrets to create and unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Now your hosts, Thaddeus and Evan.
Every time I see that reel of screenshots, I feel like I've aged like 30 years since some of those photos.
I should do a before and after of my side view of my gray beard.
Colleen, welcome to the show.
Oh, that's
Oh, you're muted. There we go.
There we go. No, that was my bad. My bad. You're good.
I was gonna say I unmuted myself. I was pretty sure.
No,
hi.
hey,
So I watched that reel and I was like, my goodness, there's not a lot of women in that.
Not since we've done it.
So more since we did that video.
Yes.
And we've got a new video coming. We've been working on it, and there will be so many more women in there.
Yep.
I'll stop.
Well,
busting you.
we had what? I think we hit 10 episodes. How many did we record down in Women HVACR?
We did 10 there.
Yeah, we did 10, and I think all of them were women except for one. Ben Poole was the lone exception. So
I have nothing against men.
He's close enough to a woman, anyways. Kidding, Ben. I love you. I love you, Ben.
He is pretty.
Yes,
he's pretty.
Well, that's off to the races here today. So anyway.
Well, Colleen, you've obviously been around the industry for a long time, but you've got a little bit of a story to tell in regards to how you got into it and finally took the plunge and got involved into it. So why don't you go ahead and share that?
Okay, so some people have heard the different variations of the story, and I'll let it all out today. Most of you have heard the elevator speech one, but I'll kind of give the details. So basically, I've done quite a few jobs in my life. I did not want to work for our family's HVAC business. We have a plumbing and heating business, and we've had it for 63 years this year. And it has been one of those things that we were always growing up. We were always working, doing side jobs and stuff for my grandpa, or sorting copper, or, helping out with, we had rental properties that we helped out with. And so I really got to know a lot more about real estate and home repairs and just home services in general. And then through college, I kind of took a job doing emergency service and dispatch stuff. And so I worked for the company, and I was like, oh, this is so lame. And I was doing college part-time and working there. And then actually I got fired. And as I should have, I was a punk ass kid, and I missed a very important call, and I actually lied about it. And anyway, I got caught, and I got promptly dismissed, as I should have, by my uncle. So that was many, many moons ago. And in the meantime, I was like, fine, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to be awesome. And this was like when I was like 21, 22. So I did kayak tours in the Everglades and in Florida for a while. So I worked like right around the Space Center, like Maritime Wildlife Refuge. And I worked with a kayak company out there and lived in Florida. I did amateur rodeo and horses, and worked at a summer camp and taught children. And then I did lifeguarding and like water sports and like extreme stuff like that. So I did that for quite a while, and I traveled to different places. And then I was doing greeting cards, working midnights at Meijer. I did childcare part-time, and then I was also doing weddings almost full-time. So I did weddings for about 4 years and ran a hall. And this was my life.
You seem to work so hard just to avoid the family business.
I did. I worked very hard to avoid the family business. Now, at the same time, simultaneously as the heating and cooling company, we also had a online marketing company. And our online marketing company, Online Access, started in early 2000. And at the time, it was a pet project of my dad's. My uncle and my father literally split up because he had the HVAC licenses and my uncle has the plumbing licenses. And then in the late 90s, early 2000s, things were the business were getting kind of rough at the economy, and it really wasn't enough to support two families. And Dave had a really big idea for a product to see where marketing was going for HVAC companies. This was like the CSG days. This is like back in the day when they were doing like some of the original comfort techs and stuff. And then he got to see how the industry was on a national level. Because so I mean, at that time, most contractors are living just in their local bubble. And they're not really, only a few of them. And honestly, some of the biggest guys you see today are the guys that were on the bandwagon doing best practice groups in the early 90s. And they were the ones, the trailblazers. And it's kind of cool to see that. He started the website company, and it was websites for contractors, and it was like template based. So it's very plug and play. You can get a template, it's up there. But if you think about the age of the web 23 years ago, it was pretty trailblazing then. And I was kind of like helping out on the side with some of that stuff. They also run the best practice groups, International Service Leadership or ISL at the time. And so I helped do certs for a hot minute, and I did that during part-time. And I really wasn't into it then either. During my entire renaissance of finding myself in all of these odd jobs, which I was doing like 3 or 4 at a time, I actually got invited by a friend. This was probably when I was like 26, 27 at this point. I got invited as a friend to join her on this road trip thing. I mean, it's hard to explain. So it's like a home sales. So a home sales event for Pure Romance. And so if you know what Pure Romance is.
Yeah, I do actually. The only reason I know that is it was discussed 2 nights ago here.
Well, there you go. So for those of you who don't know, Pure Romance is women's health and sex education and toys and lubricants and body care and all sorts of things. And
I thought it was a Tupperware party, but with dildos.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Very, very, yes.
Okay.
So basically like Tupperware and or Mary Kay, and it's very much the home sales stuff. Well, basically they had released a new catalog, and the creepiest thing about Pure Romance is it started by a lady and her son. Okay, just dwell on that. They literally
gonna leave that one alone.
Was it a stepson?
No, like
Jesus.
the CEO, Patty, I can't think of her last name, but anyway, her and her son literally did their own like road tour in a car, and they drove around doing this stuff. And I was like, that's creepy as all get out. But anyway, I digress. So they're releasing a new catalog, and they invite all of their consultants to come, and you get, just like any home sales thing, you get points for how many friends you bring along, and like, referral bonuses and stuff. So it's this whole event in Lansing, Michigan, and they have you pick you up in a big old charter bus. So you have to dress up. It's business casual or business professional, but not business casual. And so they were turning people away at the door that weren't dressed up. Like, it was a pretty big deal. They were doing this big launch. So then me and a couple girlfriends all go to Lansing, Michigan in this big charter bus. This is Pure Romance across the side. And we go to this event, and it's like a free lunch, and like they have all these presentations and stuff. Well, of course, they're doing a sales recruiting thing. So they take all the products in the catalog, and they're like, okay, we're dividing them up by groups. There's like 400 women there, and they divide everybody up into small groups, like groups of 20. And they give each group a product. And they basically say, okay, brainstorm together how you would present this in a home for a sales pitch. Well, the product my group got was a non-silicone based lubricant, or a re-wetting lubricant. And so anyway, I had to give the pitch, and I happened to give one in the group, just kind of messing around and stuff like that. And then each group had to pick somebody in their group to go up on the main stage, of course, and present it to the group. So I was the lucky person, of course. And I did a whole spiel about it, and it was really funny. And I had a couple jokes in there and stuff like that, but presented the product. And like, everybody loved it. It was really well. They offered me a job, and I was like, yeah, I'm not really interested in doing this, but it was kind of fun. And I immediately, my mom and dad at the time were on a cruise. They were just in the Keys. I think they're heading down to the Keys, and they got done with the cruise, and they were down with some friends. And I called my dad because he'd been begging me to come work in sales and do the online access stuff. And I was like, doesn't sound like it. I'm not going to do it. Well, I called him, and I was like, so I just sold lubricant on stage, and it's going to like, and he's like, it was really good. I really liked being out there and talking. And he's like, la, 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 here, talk to your mother. And so he basically passed the phone to her. Didn't want to hear it. And I was like, I think I really want to do that job. Like, is that something? And so I quit the Myers and the greeting cards and all the other stuff I was doing, and came to work in roughly early 2013, probably like 2012. Around that time, I joined Online Access. And at the time, I started working through the customer onboarding, doing Nearby Now trainings when we partnered with them, building out that product, and just little things. And I would go to my dad to different shows like Comfort Tech and all the original, ways we used to do sales and service, and getting to know like Service Roundtable in the original days too. And got to see the other side of the industry instead of the local stuff. Got to meet the people, which is where I really got passionate about that. And it's kind of been kind of crazy ever since. And it was at a Comfort Tech in Nashville that I actually met my mentor, Patty Ellingson. She was there with a really sparkly lanyard, and with the other women in HVACR representatives. And I wanted one of those damn sparkly lanyards. I was like, they're like so cool. I want a sparkly lanyard. And then I met them, and they were like, oh my God, you guys host our website. Because my father had actually donated the website to Women HVACR like in 2000, like when it started, to Ruth King. And I'd never heard of it. I didn't even know we did it. And so when I met them, they're like, hey, if you're already involved in that, we would really use some help. And you're interested at that point. They were just like looking for pulses. Okay. People that just wanted to get involved and do. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And it kind of, the rest is history after that.
Most important question. Hey, most important question. Do you remember your exact pitch from being on stage?
Not exactly. I do know I made a joke about a car or something about like your sex drive being like either a jalopy or a Ferrari or something like that. But, it was along those lines. But I know it was a non-silicone based, natural re-wetting lubricant. So
safe for getting pregnant with.
That's not a good sales point.
Yeah, it depends on the market, but. Well, that was my only takeaway from that, Evan. I don't know if you got anything else.
That's all you guys are hung up on. That's it. Okay.
No, I mean I have a couple, but I'll let Evan go on this one.
Oh, that's funny.
I dodged out on a life of selling sex toys for HVAC.
Well, no, what's happening?
I'd have been successful at either.
Absolutely, you would have been. Oh gosh, I think we should bring a pure romance table to women in HVACR. It would do quite well.
Sponsored by.
Sponsored by HVAC Revealed.
I was gonna go with Colleen Keyworth, but okay.
That's just what I need on my way out.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, I'm curious. So like you've and now you're back to online access and working there, and obviously a lot of other things. And I mean, you got fired by your uncle from the business, and then went and did a whole litany of other things before you actually came back to it. I'm curious how that experience of being fired from your uncle, and I know you talked about the story, but like being fired from your uncle, doing your own thing, and then coming back to the family business, how those experiences in between shaped who you are now working inside the business.
I mean, I think I said this before. I absolutely deserved to get fired. I was not in remotely even interested in what I was doing. I wasn't taking it seriously. And it was pretty hard. Like I was pretty butthurt about it. And I was kind of a jerk. And it kind of made things really tense for my uncle and me for a while. But I finally grew up and got over myself. But doing the other jobs, I don't regret that either. I mean, I was living in one of our apartments. I was still helping run the apartments for the family and just kind of being like honestly a slumlord, which was great, and redoing carpet and windows all the time. And I was doing the midnights, and I liked that kind of stuff. And then, of course, doing the kayak tours and the horseback riding. And so I got to do some things that were pretty neat and meet some crazy people all over, which definitely is great for socializing, of course, because you have to adapt to different situations. But I learned hard lessons at each place. And then I think the biggest one that I actually probably used more than anything out of all those experiences was actually the wedding planning. That is, I still am obsessed with that. I know every girl says, oh, I want to be an event planner, but there's so much that plays into my job now that even for Women HVACR, for the early days of conferences that we were doing or any kind of event that we're planning, there's so much of that knowledge and experience that I brought to the table that has helped me in this job now and probably every day, easily. Just understanding things like contracts or how an event scales or how you're going to go through event logistics and all of that kind of stuff. And even for all the conferences I attend, it's the same thing. And I will say one of the biggest secrets to my success is I'm always friends with the event organizers. I mean, that's it. Like they are the people behind the scenes doing the work. And that is where you're going to get the most traction. And I understand what they have to do. It's a lot. And there's a lot of details to just even having that many people in one place. And it really changes what you can offer as far as content and how you have to hold people's attention. I was doing roughly about 4 to 5 weddings a weekend. And in the summer, it was nuts. So, I mean, I'd have teams and stuff, and it's a huge hall, and there was like several spaces, but we would be going through that, and I'd seen it all. I mean, the stories I could tell you on just weddings in general, you get 2 families together that don't know each other, get them drunk. It's great. So, so I've seen that all. And I love the high pressure stress. So being able to like look at a room, see what needs to be done, and be able to delegate that and say, this is what this needs to look at. That's probably my superpower, I guess. But and that came with a lot of background in doing a lot of those events and stuff, and working my way up from like banquet captain to like hall coordinator and stuff. So
it's funny that the experiences that somebody actually does, you don't really know how it's going to shape and factor in later on, you know, especially with what you guys are doing with the women in HVACR, and like that event in Phoenix was top notch, right? And looking forward to Jacksonville and seeing what you got there, right? No, it was probably. And look, there's different complexities with different event spaces that you always have to factor in, right? I mean, like going to a new space every single time. Now you're like, oh, what should we do in this space? Well, it's a new one, right? And like there's a lot of outdoor moving from building to building because it's Phoenix, right? But
we grew like 3 times. We had to change our buildings. That's why the logistics on it. I was like, so because we actually our numbers expanded. So our original room, we outgrew it. And so then when that happened, we had to move everything. And logistically, it was kind of a nightmare.
I thought it was like I've seen that,
and we were supposed to have part of the event outside. Like your ability to handle chaos,
right,
and have a plan, but then completely scrap it and move forward with something else was
at that lunchtime. I had a small funeral in my mind. Like I literally had to sit there for like a second when they told me everything was moving, and I was like, okay, I had my funeral for it. It's done. It's over with. It's dead. We're moving on. I don't panic. I never panic, and I cannot stand when people panic. Like I just. There's nothing to do there. Like there's no win.
Right. And even like, and that's, well, there's even a good lesson too, right? So when shit hits the fan, and like coming from the wedding planning, like, you know, I've had one wedding, hopefully my only ever wedding. But I've been on the back end of a few different weddings and like different moving parts and such, and helping get it like organized in there. And that's what your friends are for, and in family. But like something at every single wedding is always going to go wrong no matter what. Right. Something at every single event that you do is always going to go wrong no matter what. Something that you do in business is always going to go wrong no matter what you do. And in taking that moment to just pause and reflect and say, okay, this happened. Take a big breath, collect yourself, make a plan to move forward.
Have a small funeral.
Yep. Have a small funeral.
I did. I was literally sitting in the ballroom. I think there was like the hall, the hotel person. I think Becky was sitting next to me, and they were like, yeah, it's raining. The whole thing has to move inside. We're not going to be outside at all. It's just going to shift. And I was like, I was like, all right, let's go.
Right. Well, like an old mentor of mine that I actually hired, I had as a personal coach for a while. And Evan, you know him, Hal Elrod. You know, one of the things that he says is it's okay to be negative, but only for 5 minutes. And now transition, right? You know, you don't, and I forget the exact wording of the quote is, you know, shit happens to everybody. We just get to choose what the reason is and why it happened to us. And we get to craft our plan to move forward.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's how you handle it that comes out.
Correct. And as a leader, I mean, everyone's looking at you for answers, for solutions, right? Mm-hmm. To be calm in that storm is essential. So I guess for you, what are some things that you've done in the past? What were some situations that came up in business where you had to step into that role, be calm, chill out, and steer the ship?
Well, honestly, sometimes travel. I mean, when we travel for shows, everybody can tell you there's always something at the airport, or your stuff doesn't make it, or like the flight gets canceled and you're not going to make it to the event in time. And so it's always being able to pivot and be like, I refuse to panic, and you got to be able to let it go. Like if something's not going to happen, I'm already in my mind. I'm like, there's no use like dwelling on it right now, because that can't get that back.
Right.
I'm going to be upset. I'm going to definitely call the airline and have like my words, but like, but like as far as what you need to do with the team, or how you need to like pivot, or hey, we're going to make the best of it. I think one of the things I'll highlight, we were at a ACHVAC show, and we see. But thank God it didn't happen to us. So I'm sorry it's not directly, but we saw somebody that basically their stuff barely arrived. And because it didn't arrive, they were like checked out. And so they didn't have anything at their booth or anything like that. And they just like left. So it was empty. It had their name on it. They had their box that arrived and just sat there, and they didn't do anything. And it looked so bad. Like, even if your stuff doesn't arrive, and even if part of it arrives or anything like that, maybe it's not your backdrop or your table or whatever like that, you have some literature, you have some business cards, whatever, you can still stand there. You can still wear your stuff. You can still work that room or booth, because, I mean, you have to. It looked worse for that company being absent than not being present and just saying, hey, you know, stuff happens. We're just going to be here.
It is true. Yeah.
Yeah. It was just, it was such a thing. It left an impression like with me, just because I was like, we're never going to do that. And like, I've had issues where table shows or small dealer shows where it's just me. And I just have to work the table and wear the brand and go with it. And I don't have the fancy stuff with me, but it doesn't matter.
Right. Everybody says that, like, and here's the need. If this ever happens to anybody, here's an idea that I just came to mind. You're staying in a hotel. All hotels have business centers. Most, anyways, they have ability to print something off, open up the computer, sign says, our shit didn't arrive. Come talk to us anyways, right? Something simple, make light of it and say, like,
that's a conversation starter.
Right now it's a conversation. So it's like, oh, your stuff didn't arrive? Like, yeah, these fucking airlines these days, right? And now you go into it. And like, it's an easy way to be able to pull that out.
Yeah, furniture not showing up at the booth. And so you got to stand in line forever and be like, all right, I need my carpet, I need my stuff. So event planning does come into so many different things. And if you guys have done any type of booth show, trade show, anything, it's like people don't realize how the details that go into that, and like the pre-planning and the registration, and not just the registration, but then like you have to look for grace from people. And that's why I honestly said, like, working with the show event planners is a huge thing, because I definitely don't pay attention to all my emails all the time. And I hate to say that, but like these show planners, and I can say from doing this on ourselves, like for Women HVACR, when we're throwing a show out there and we're telling all of our sponsors, like, we need this, this, and this from you, and you need to register now. And of course, everybody procrastinates and they don't care about it until it's like 2 weeks before the event. And at that point, you're like, okay, well, now I'm in the middle of everything and I can't really care about what you need because you didn't pay attention to my first 17 emails. But now I have to have the same amount of grace for people that I do that to when I'm like so busy because I'm doing other things and I don't really care about their show, because I'm tackling everything as it's coming at me, rather than being like, oh, a year from now, I'm going to need to do this. So those are just different things I've learned, and being able to ask for help. But like, if you have grace with other people, especially now that you understand what it's like being, doing the other side of it, and people have grace with you, and always be nice to those event planners, because when you need registration badges the last minute, or you totally messed up your booth and stuff like that, like, it's a lot to navigate.
Right. 6 words. It's okay to ask for help.
Yes.
I actually wrote that down. I actually wrote that down to make sure that it was actually 6. Just making sure, it is the Whiskey Wednesday edition after all. But like, so I think this is just a topic that I think anybody can really hear. And putting your ego aside, your ego is not your amigo, or check your ego at the door, or insert any line, cliche statement that you want. But oftentimes in business, and in fact, actually, we were just on a mastermind for our business, On Purpose Media, before we got on this, and they were talking, and it's actually, we were placed into a mastermind group of individuals that were 3-4x the size of us, right? And it's interesting to hear their struggles and their situations and what they're going through, and asking each other for help and for feedback, and just talking about things. But I just think a lot more people need to know that, hey, it's okay to ask for help. You might not have the answers for everything, but if you can at least ask for help, now you're going to be able to move your business forward, or your sales journey forward, or your diagnosis forward, right? Whoever's listening, insert whatever you want into that equation, right? It's just a key thing that a lot of people miss out on. And
you can't hold grudges, honestly. And I know, don't get me wrong, working in a women's organization has its challenges. We all are tigers, and even in my own office, not even being a women's organization, like, working with people is the hardest part about any type of management, or even being in business. That's the cluster every time. But honestly, the grudges, my father told me very, very early that this industry is way too small to burn bridges, because you are always going to see that person, because it's so incestuous that you're going to see that person in another position, another time, because nobody ever leaves this industry. That's how great we freaking are. Like, it's such an amazing family, and it's such a great industry that nobody ever leaves it. They just change positions and jobs, and they just go, somewhere else. But you're going to see that person again. And there's no room for ego big enough to say, I don't need you, or you're not important to me, because that's just not true. Sure, there are toxic relationships out there, and you just set boundaries, right? You just don't have expectations on that person, but you never burn a bridge, right? Because it's too small. You're going to meet that person again. And honestly, everybody knows everybody, and you're going to need that person someday, or you're going to need people that person knows. And your reputation or how you come across as somebody, that's your calling card.
It's funny that you say that. One of my it wasn't my grade 9 teacher. He had a good saying that was, there's no such thing as stupid questions, just stupid people don't ask questions. But it was actually his wife who told me that in like grade 10 or grade 11 was that same thing. He's like, hey, Thad, you never know when you might run across somebody later on down in life. And so if you've done them wrong, reach out and apologize to them. Say, hey, sorry, right? I mean, grade 11, right? You're still learning a lot of shit. And I mean, luckily those paths has never crossed for myself with those individuals, but I reached out and I apologized to them. And I mean, I was never a bully, actually. In fact, I got bullied most of my junior high school. And then in high school, it just flipped. And for whatever reason, I was on the other side of the spectrum. But then she told me that. I'm like, oh, fuck. That's a realization that like, okay, well, let's go back to that and say, okay, anybody that I might have done wrong, I'm going to go and apologize to them. You know what those people actually did? They sat down and had a conversation. Now you can actually have a conversation with those individuals because you went out and you reached out, because you never know what's going to come across you, right? I'm curious, in your roles, have you ever been responsible for hiring and firing, more specifically?
Yes.
Okay.
And to kind of follow up on your point, I guess the other saying that my father taught me was there's no such thing as a free enemy.
Nope.
And so that when you unpack that, you're like, it took me a while to understand what that meant. And you're like, okay, you can't afford, there's no such thing as, oh, I'm so big, I can afford to have somebody dislike me or burn that bridge with that person or not pursue a relationship or be civil.
Yep.
So there's no such thing. There's no arriving at being too important. So,
I mean, it paid off big time for Billy Madison, right?
Yeah.
when he was at the end of the movie there. And yeah.
The great comparison.
Just out of left field. Welcome to another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. So going back to
back to your question,
right? Going back to the question, and hiring and firing. In terms of firing, and I'm hoping you subscribe to this philosophy. I'm taking a shot in the dark here, but judging by a conversation, I think that you do. When you fire somebody, what does loving them out the door mean to you?
So we have this philosophy with our customers too, honestly, when people leave and or they quit us, or the same thing when we have to part ways with somebody. One of my first fires that I ever had to do was actually one of my friends. That was hard. We loved them right out the door, and it was a hard conversation. I had to have HR there. We found out it was time clock fraud. That was hard. And that I had hired her as a friend coming in to help. And it was one of my first hires early on. And then when they presented me with the evidence that she had been stealing, and there's no conversation. I mean, that's not a like, oh, here's a strike. That's out the door right there.
Mm-hmm.
So that was tough. And honestly, it killed the friendship. And there was really hard to recover on that. I mean, on my end, we kept it as clean as possible, and it really affected my friends group internally quite a bit for a while. Finally, we grew up and grew out of it and moved on. But I think, especially because with my father, and I think you guys kind of heard about him a little bit at the conference, but he's very much obsessed with the person on all things, to a fault. And to the point where it's really almost impossible to get fired from online access, which kind of sucks sometimes, because he's so obsessed with the best interest of the person. And it takes quite a bit for anybody to walk themselves out the door without having a couple of different shots or coming to rock bottom and giving that opportunity to redeem themselves. So, customers, though, the same thing. We will give them valley service right up to the very end to make sure that we are doing every part of our part, because we always leave the door open. And I have seen so many companies out there that as soon as somebody's ready to quit, they will take their stuff hostage, completely shut them out of their stuff, be completely vindictive. And it's a bad taste in everybody's mouth. And it also sets another example for the company they're leaving to, that they're like, oh, these people suck to deal with. And I never want to have that as a reputation. And I never want to close the door on anybody, because honestly, we have from the last 3 years, we've had about 44 customers come back to us. So it's just, it's you never want to burn a bridge.
Well, and 100%, right? And like that's just the state of marketing companies, or a sad state of some marketing companies. I shouldn't say all marketing companies don't want to paint us all with the same brush, because we're the same philosophy as you. Is we want to love our clients out the door if they leave, and if how people come back literally within like a week or two, they're like, oh fuck, I'm coming back. You guys are good. Like you showed me the right way and things to look out for. And hey, guess what? Red flags, right? But in terms of looking at the individuals listening, okay, well. The best interest of the person is one of the things that I wrote down, and trying to work and guide them through any issues that they might have to be able to, it's like you mentioned, it's tough to get fired from online access because you're wanting to guide them through their success. So what are some things that you guys do within the business to be able to help guide people onto their path of success, and how can that relate to an HVAC contractor?
One of the things we've done, which I know it sounds, but what, like, you gotta understand, I'm like one of the oldest people in the entire company, and I'm 37. Okay. So it's crazy. It's like, I'm going to say it. I'm hoping she's not here, but it's like a daycare center. Okay. And I love our team.
I was going to say, for perspective, you're also at an event right now with your team.
Yes.
It's okay. Our team is having a watch party right now, and you know what? It's like running a daycare.
Okay. So, but even having myself at 37 and having teammates that are like 30 or 25, it's a completely different world. It's a completely different set of expectations. It's a completely different set of priorities. One of the things that we offered for our team recently that I didn't get a chance to be involved in because I've already done it, but it really helped build and honestly kind of invest in things that we just assume people know. But we did Financial Peace University, and we paid for it for the entire team. And because the stage in their lives where they're at right now is they are learning how to manage money. They're learning how to set up their investments and stuff. They're starting families. They're buying houses. They're getting married. And so everybody's doing those first things in life. And when everybody starts looking at the dollar sign all the time, and you're like, oh, this is my take home, this is what my benefits are. And like, you have to be able to teach that. You can't just assume everybody knows how to manage money. You can't just assume that they know what their paycheck or what their actual package is and how important insurance is. So those are some of the things that we actually in the last couple of years have started to do a lot better at, like as far as trying to make sure that was understanding, because we realized that was a hole, because you can't assume everybody has that type of knowledge. And I feel like schools do a shit job preparing people for the real world on what a mortgage actually works like. And because you can just have a job, but if you have a career, then the career is also helping you show how to manage that paycheck and how to actually grow a life. And I don't know. I hope I see a lot of companies that do this. We got this idea from other companies actually. And we started doing it. So the Financial Peace University, we had a bunch of people jump into that and got to do it with their spouses or their significant others. And like, we provided childcare. So just being outside the box of just basic business skills, but just life skills, because they just look at you as a paycheck. And if they're just looking and counting the numbers and stuff like that, then they're missing the big picture, and you got to be able to help educate that.
Well, one company that I know does a really good job of that, Travis Smith and Heather Bird, I can't remember her last, Heather B. Bargender from Sky Heating and Cooling, right? And I think Travis has moved out of that business now. But one of the, they used to do a financial literacy series just for their team, and they did a bang up job of that. So much so that like they're teaching their team to become financially independent, that they don't need the job, but they want to stay at the job because of all the information and all the knowledge and all the culture that they've built.
Right.
Well, and look at our guest from last week, Mike Monroe, and him being able to retire at the age of 33 as a plumber, right? When you get those financial literacy skills put in place, it can change your life. And you don't need to become an owner, which is what most contractors think, most technicians think that's the only way to advance, right? Is to get to that stage. But there's so much opportunity where they're at. And I think if more owners invested into that kind of a mindset, they would lose less people.
Well, there was a book, I'm just going to try to pull it up. I can't, The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, or Housel. I can't remember that. I don't know how to pronounce it. But The Psychology of Money, and the guy, just know it's Housel if you want to listen to it. But he even talked about it, a couple examples of this of, hey, there's, you know, and I don't remember the names. This is a while ago that I listened to it, but the story still rings true, is that there was a janitor at a company that retired a multimillionaire. There was a CEO of a company who retired broke. Well, okay, well, what's the difference, right? You're talking like 10x, 15x, 20x the salary. Yet one person retired broke, and the other person, when they died, had millions of dollars left for their kids and for their family because of the psychology and how they viewed it. I feel that's an entirely deep topic that we could probably spend an entire episode on, but I do want to get to that. I'm going to interject on that. I'm like, oh shit, my own idea is going to get canceled out of here. So I do want to get to the random question generator, because that's one of my favorite parts of the show. So Colleen, the random question generator is brought to you by On Purpose Media, who are your local HVAC marketing experts who build websites, SEO, and PPC, and we beat online access all day long. No, I'm kidding. At the end of the day, they do things right. On Purpose Media does things right. But if you ever are curious on your marketing and you want to make sure, hey, is my marketing on pace or not, hit us up on purposemedia.ca/marketing-analysis. Use and abuse that link, folks. It goes to Evan directly. Make him do some work. We have 4 questions pulled up. You don't get to know what those questions are. You get to choose 1, 2, 3, or 4, and I'm going to read it off. And I honestly don't think I've read them all. No, I have not. So what question do you want? 1, 2, 3, or 4?
4.
4. What is the most absurd flavor of new ice cream invention? Or
I saw beer in Italy.
I'm going to add an or in that. If you could invent your own most absurd ice cream flavor, what would it be?
Ooh. That's a tough one. I just got back from Italy, so of course it was like an all gelato tour.
Mm-hmm.
The most absurd. They do. I saw beer. I saw bacon. I saw all sorts of things. I did like one that I had, which was crazy, but it was cookies and cream and caramel, which I don't see a lot. And I thought, like, because we just mixed it, I would totally make a flavor like that. I love cookies and cream, like just the Oreo and like that.
You and me both.
But then they added caramel with it too, with I think it was like graham crackers or something like that. But it was so good.
DQ has like a new flavor that's kind of close to that. I watched a commercial the other night and I paused and I was like, fuck, I almost trying to run to DQ. But it's actually funny that one came up, because like I read, so it's actually, and again, this is pure coincidence, everybody that's listening. I read an article, I think on Sunday. I subscribe to something called The Hustle. I don't read it most of the times, but sometimes I do. But one was talking about the history of ice cream.
Not to be confused with Hustler.
Right? Exactly. No, Penthouse Letters, actually. Penthouse Letters, prefer that much more.
Dear Hustler, I never thought this would happen to me.
Right? But they talked about the history of ice cream, and like the person that was like one of the OGs of ice cream, and like before it used to be like, all right, let's just throw everything possible into ice cream and freeze the fuck out of it, because it was like for high class society, right? Because not many people could keep ice cream longer than a day, right, or overnight, and so they would put random concoctions into it. I think the craziest one was like pistachio chocolate brownie or something like that. Like it was fucking, like I read it, like, I threw up in my mouth.
Dude, pistachio ice cream is delicious, especially gelato.
I'm not a big pistachio fan.
Mix it with chocolate and put some like rosemary spice into that, and like that's what they would do. It was just fucking wild shit.
I don't know if rosemary has room in ice cream.
No, probably not. So, getting her back, one of the things we ever so briefly touched on is marketing. And I wanted, since you own a marketing company, we own a marketing company, or yes, you work at /own. I want to run the future of marketing, and we hear a lot, and like you mentioned before we got on, you're at a conference right now, social media, you're like, hey, so let's start talking about ChatGPT or Bard or these next new advancements in like new technology and shit. So looking at HVAC contractors and looking at marketing companies, what do you see as the future for marketing companies to dominate for HVAC companies?
Well, we're coming into some pretty crazy stuff. I mean, right now we've already heard that content is king. And so if we're talking about ranking digitally, that's always been there. And content writing sucks, especially when you're talking about HVAC. I'm sorry, I don't care who you are. I'm lucky enough to have somebody on our team that we got her from writing auto manuals. And now we've upgraded her to writing about HVAC equipment, which I can't think is much better. And with Chat GPT and Google Bard and everything out there, it is kind of the easy button, and they're pulling from all these different sources and being able to, because you're basically regurgitating the same stuff over and over again, and it sucks because it's almost like what is the most genuine thing out there, and everybody's fighting for anything that's original, and yet there's very little original. The biggest thing that I think anybody with all the resources that they have is the people that actually implement it or take advantage of it correctly, because any success thing that you see out here, the only winners are the implementers. Correct. So when it comes to content stuff, if you have a system where you're like, okay, I'm going to actually do content pages on maybe a new service that you're offering, I'm actually going to put that out there. I know very few contractors that even put their maintenance plan on their website, and that kills me because nobody wants to write it out. And like, we'll beg for it all day long, but like, we can't write it out for you. We can give you ideas, but if you have other tools to give you examples of what this looks like, it's the doers. And even like things like, okay, what is it for your drain cleaning and drain clearing services? What does that actually entail? Actually write it out. What are the benefits? Doing case studies. Everybody hates doing case studies, but like, because they hate writing them out. And I really think that the Chat GPT and the Bard stuff will change things. Will Google smack it down eventually? I don't know. I really think if people use it smartly and being able to grab at least a base, because I always find for myself, I'm good at writing if there's something in front of me. I can always tweak. I can always not look at a blank page. A blank page kills me inside. My soul dies. I can't do it. But if you're giving me structure or rails or something to play off of, then I can edit, then I can switch, then I can keep going with it, and then go. And I think a lot of people probably work that way too. Like, even if you start using it as guidelines or at least a jump start off of, or to get your words organized, it's a way better thing than looking at a blank page. Nobody likes doing content. Even content writers, I feel like they have to write about the same thing over and over again, and they don't like doing content. The Chat GPT stuff and Bard, I kind of prefer Bard personally, just because the Queen's not alive in Bard world. But in general, did that take a while for you guys to get?
This is funny.
That was a delayed laugh. You guys are like staring at me.
I'm like, no, okay, got it. Yeah. I'm like, wait, the Queen died, right?
But take it with a grain of salt. You still have to have original content. You still have to have original thought in your head. You still have to be able to think for yourself, because it's only a tool that is using what it is pulling from the internet. And we all know that there are lies, damn lies, and what's published on the internet. So take it with a grain of salt. But I like using it because it helps my writer's block. If I'm going to be writing up entire paragraphs about the benefits of getting a humidifier, God help me. And I can at least pull up it and some of that stuff and like add my own thoughts to it or stories. Correct. I think that that's kind of the thing that people can use this tool for. If you need processes, everybody hates writing their processes, and it does a pretty decent job. I've done a couple test things writing out some processes, and it's crazy how it'll actually pull things together. But be careful. I feel like it is not the easy button for everything. And it's still, of course, a machine. And so you're only going to know your business and, of course, our business. I had to use it for some things recently, and it was pulling up information that wasn't actually correct. And I had to double check it. Now I have to make sure my team is just as diligent to understand that, yeah, it looks like words on a page. Great. No, you got to read what those words say and actually realize, like, this is actual, it has to make sense content. Like, it actually has to read, actually has to be, applicable to what we're talking about. And so I think that's the hard thing, is people are going to get lazy with it, and you have to be diligent because it still requires a human element. It's not the one-all solution. It is, however, a great tool, especially because content writing sucks. Maybe you guys feel differently, but content writing is like,
yeah.
How many times can you say, like, you need AC or your best choice for AC repair, or over and over again? And it's like, we sell really boring stuff, and nobody cares until it's broken. So it's refreshing to have something that's going to write 6 different ways to say that paragraph and at least give you some more inspiration.
Well, and I truly feel like AI writing tools are going to become a new baseline, because everyone has access to it, right? And so what is it that you're going to do to add to it? The other thing that I found fascinating, a friend of mine posted to Facebook today. He's an SEO dude. He wrote a quiz for his staff. It was a 20 question quiz, gave it to GPT to see if it could figure out the answers. It only got 6 right. So it still doesn't know everything, like you said, right? There are errors in it, and you need to make sure that you're fact checking everything that it can do.
Yeah.
It's incredibly useful to take some shortcuts in the simple, mundane, boring bullshit, and it's going to make everyone's life easier. However, it's only as good as the prompts that you're feeding it.
Yep. It's a lazy man's escape, but it catches up with everybody, especially if you're going to get the same spit out as anybody else. It's going to be like blogs all over again. People that pay to get blogs done, and you find out you have the same blog published as like 27 other companies in different states. Guess what? When that's searched, you're coming up with all the other states up there. So nothing's ever really original unless you're actually putting your actual own spin on it.
Well, and that's like our content writer said the same thing. Like we enabled ChatGPT 4 for her. And she's like, I took it for a test spin. She's like, wonderful. She's like, this is going to help me be a lot more efficient in what she's doing to be able to do more work, but also still maintain that originality. She's like, I still got to go and edit the pieces, but now I'm not coming up with it. Like I'm not writing 150 HVAC articles on a month-by-month basis. You know, I'm editing and adding my own spin to it to be able to allow it to be able to do more and more and more and more. And that's really where it matters.
So I don't think it tells stories. That's the other thing. It can't tell your story.
No,
it can't tell stories from your customers or your successes or your story as a business. It's not going to be able to do that for you. It might be able to flush it out and like you take your whatever story you've written and to add to it, to embellish it a bit more maybe, or to make it a little bit more robust. But we can't lose the element of storytelling because that is uniquely you. And that's not what a bot or AI is going to be able to put out for you.
Well, it puts your spin on things, right? I mean, to go back and we talked about it very briefly in the very beginning, is your voice, your spin on things. Like, how do you convey what it is that you want to convey? AI is not going to do that because it doesn't have the actual, I mean, unless maybe you're web enabled on it and it can pull whatever's on your website. But if you're running the website from scratch, guess what? It's not going to be able to pull your shit.
No. So I have a prediction right now, and I know you guys probably see this too. So I'm just going to I'm not going to throw shade. It's not specific, but I feel like we're coming into a fall that all we're going to see at every conference is a shit ton of GPT or chat GPT topics. It's just going to be AI this and AI that, and every company is going to have to put something out there. Heck, I'm feeling pressure that now I have to put something together in order to be out there because that's the only thing that these shows feel like they want to hear because that's the new shiny thing right now. And it's going to be everybody repeating the same thing over and over again, just like when everybody was trying to tackle Google local services. And so it's always the new shiny thing. And I always feel like it's like dance, monkey dance. By the time we get into the fall and we have to submit our topics now, it's going to be a completely different world.
Right.
Yep.
It absolutely is. So I guess here's the topic that could be fun for women in HVACR. You're too late for AI. Sorry. We're going back to yellow pad technology.
Legal pads it is.
But like that's actually that's like he read my mind. When you look at it, like, okay, now that everybody's starting to do AI, if you want to flip it and go back to traditional means that work, you're an HVAC company, plumbing, electrical. How do you go back to things that might have been left that are still going to work?
Are we talking about like systems and processes, or are you talking about like marketing specifically?
Marketing specifically.
So I feel like the art of the dialing out, like people try to do a lot of automating with that. I think that still needs a person, and there's really no easy button for that. And the person has to actually work at your business, like not a third party company. And I feel like a lot of people try the easy button, and it's really hard to convey empathy, originality, or even any type of like specific, I live in your community and know what you're going through, unless they actually live and work in your own company. And I think sometimes we rely heavily on email follow-ups and text message follow-ups, but sometimes like an actual phone call is necessary, especially dialing out and doing some follow-ups or happy calls. I hated them when I worked at business. I hated happy calls. That was like my least favorite thing. They'd like hand me all like the sheets from the jobs, because of course this was like before we got into like any type of digital stuff, no iPads. So they hand you all the job sheets, and then you have the job sheets, and you have to sit there and call people and make sure that they're happy and like, hey, how'd this go? Blah, 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 blah. And it was like hit or miss whether people want to talk to you. But I hated that. Now I can pretty much call anybody over anything and talk to a tree if I needed to. But at the time it was like, oh, like Yeah, no, I feel like that is a human element that there really is no easy button for. You can automate a lot in your business. You can. There's a lot of things with chat. There's a lot of things with even text message follow up and everything. And even your CSRs. And I know that some companies don't have the luxury of this because you have to use call services. You have to use third parties, especially the guys that are growing and don't even have the office capacity yet. But like there is something innately different about somebody not being a number and being an actual name and having that, oh my God, it's super hot today. Well, I don't know about that. I'm sitting in Massachusetts and you're sitting in like, Baltimore. So
Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of different.
Or-
and I feel like
or
a lot of people think
overseas.
it's easy. Yeah. Or overseas. And people know that. And nobody wants to feel that way. Everybody wants just somebody to answer the phone and talk to and have that empathetic or that human conversation of you're in my community. You have the same interests I have. You're just like me. So.
Right. You mentioned very briefly phone trees. What's your philosophy and opinion on dialing into phone trees?
I know they're a safeguard. We don't have a phone tree. We just have a pre-message right now. I don't think we have a phone tree. I actually have a personal vendetta against phone trees. Like I'm that broad that if I get a phone tree at your company and it takes me in circles, like I will press every number in there until I get a real person. And then I will be like, I need to speak to your manager. Like I take it so personally. It's even sad. Okay. It's super sad, but like, especially if it's during business hours and I could have been a sales call for all they know. I don't know. Maybe I'm freaking, I don't know. Maybe that's one of those ego things where you think you're so important and you need to talk to somebody, but it almost offends me personally when I get to call an active company and I get a phone tree that doesn't allow me to get to a real person during business hours.
And quickly.
I will press every option. And even the sales option, I usually try to find the sales option. If this is a sales call and you press it thinking, well, I'm a sales call, so I've got to be hot, right? So like people are going to answer the phone and nothing. And then I'll end up writing emails and I'll be like, I called your office. I couldn't get a hold of somebody. Oh my God, that's so amazing. That never happens to us. And I was like, yeah, for the last 3 days. No, I hate phone trees that get excessive. I really think that it frustrates people. If they don't get a response or a real human answering the phone, like I can understand saying, hey, this line's recorded, blah, blah, blah. And then you just answer the phone. And then even having a real person answer that and then say, okay, this is for billing, this is for sales, whatever. But at least you have that human connection and people are feeling like they're talking to a human. I hate going through airline phone trees. I don't know anybody that does.
No.
Yeah, they're annoying.
No, they are not. There is one way to be able to, and like we've toyed about this with internal in our organization, with people getting hit up by spam. And I mean, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this too. Hey, thanks for calling ABC Heating and Cooling. We hate spam just as much as you. So in order to be able to talk to a human person, you just have to press any number.
I like that.
They press any number, boom, it redirects to wherever it needs to go. I mean, you put one to talk to a human, 2 to talk to a human, 3 to like make fun of it, right? Have some
3 to talk to a wizard, 5 to talk
right? Because here's the thing is that every single person gets fucking spam calls and they are annoying.
They are. I think anytime you sign up for a show, like I know my upstairs crew, when they take calls, like I'm constantly getting stuff that they're sending to me. And most people that get a hold of me, it's on my cell phone. I mean, I'm probably breaking every rule by giving that out. But in general, if
so
what's
what's your cell number? We can put it up here.
810. It's out there. It's out there. So I mean, I can't fight that. But like show people, once you sign up for a show, you know how many people call for hotel rooms and saying, you got your stuff for us or shipping or email lists. That is so bad. And it inundates our office all the time. And then they send them to my voicemail. And then I just have these voicemails from people constantly. And I'm like, yeah, if I get a call from the office, it's probably spam.
Mm-hmm.
It's bad. But I like that. I could definitely do some fun things with that. Like if you want to talk to a human, press 1. If you want to talk to an extraterrestrial, press 2. If you want to talk to a wizard, press 3.
Right. They just put a little whisper message on there for the CSR.
Yes. You're a wizard, Harry. Yes. That'd be great.
But see, that's the fun elements that I think are missing from traditional business, right? Because people are like, oh, I just got to be cut and dry all the time and I got to run a professional business. Well, no, throw some actual human element into it, which I think is missing a lot. So since we did
going back to like all of the companies that we serve, right? Home service companies, nobody calls them excited. Everyone's calling because they're frustrated, they're pissed off, they're irritated. Yeah. They've got something going on. So if you can do something that's going to lighten that mood just a little bit, right? Even I called on one company last week and their hold message was a guy playing the guitar talking about how shitty it is to be on hold. It was funny, right? So doing stuff like that is what elevates the customer experience. It doesn't deteriorate it by being
I've seen
less
people
perfect.
do customer testimonials on hold, or like even just we started recording some of our people just talking about different products or services or just what they do or what's different about what we offer.
Yeah.
But that's a big key, like you said, the phone tree thing. We will never do that in online access because our big promise is we have 24-hour turnaround. You're always going to be able to get a hold of a human being, whether it's going to be text, email, or calling us directly. But if you have a change or something need to be updated, it's going to be done same day.
Nice.
So
Love that. So since we kind of cliffhangered her number, I'll sketch it. I'll imprint it in a couple places in Jacksonville. You can fill in the blanks on where it's going to be imprinted.
Bathroom stall doors.
There we go.
For anyone that's looking for a
HVAC marketing.
lubricant,
if you want to talk to an extraterrestrial, call 810. HVACwebsites.com is forwards to onlineaccess.com. It's just easier to remember. HVAC websites. Of course, if you do want to check out women at HVACR.org, we actually did not really get into a lot of that. Maybe we can circle back to that to close out the show because super important. I loved the conference and we'll chat about that. INWIC.org, we very briefly mentioned that. That is the International Women in Cooling, which is neat. And of course, if you want to reach out to her, C Keyworth at online-access.com. But let's bring it back to Women in HVACR. And going to that event last year was absolutely phenomenal for myself. And I mean, I've chatted with everybody that was there, and I know Evan had to leave early the one day, and some of the best podcasts HVAC Success Secrets has ever had was without him on the show. So no, I'm a little bit of a dig, but a little bit. He's looking up for his little thing. He's going to press some buttons and make some magic happen. And I'm buying time for him to be able to allow it to happen because you can see his face like, ooh. But no, like seriously, he's like, where is it? So, but seriously, like the event, this is for any single person, no matter your company. If you're in the commercial and you're in the residential, if you have any single person in your organization, office, tech, leadership, that is a female, they need to get to this conference because it was such an eye-opening experience to see how, and it was different than all the other conferences. Like we went to what, 5 or 6 in like 5 weeks last year. We went to the AHR, and it was just the camaraderie that was there. It was powerful and it was special and it was absolutely amazing. So walk us through the plans that are coming up for Jacksonville, if you know them, and if not, just talk about.
I don't know a thing. Well, overall, I get emotional talking about it. The conference is different. It's different than any other industry event out there, and whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, it is definitely geared towards obviously women in the industry and connecting them. And if you support the presence of women in the industry and the inclusion of women in the industry, then you qualify to be there too. Including the podcasters last year. We'd always kind of done that. The Jerks have been a long time supporter of ours. And of course, like Tersh, Josh, and both of you guys. And we had Eric there. We had Lemon Seed. Ryan Redding was there too. So I'm making sure I'm not forgetting anybody. I'm like, I know there were so many, but it was really nice because you guys took the time to be there, and it was barely organized. I think we pulled that together and we were like, hey guys, we're going to give you 3 rooms. You're going to split them with each of you guys are going to split a room. And then here's a list of people, or just make up your own thing and find people and interview. And you guys made the best of it. You guys rocked it because you took that opportunity, and each of you, I think on average, everybody did about 9 to 10 interviews. And you guys took some of the most amazing up and coming females, and it was kind of the example of some of the best and brightest out there. And you guys got content for the entire year. And so it was really great to be able to have you guys share their stories and help create the FOMO of the event. And we really appreciated that. And I hope that happens this year too, maybe even bigger and better and more opportunities. Because I mean, just the fact that you guys hustled with very little direction and made it work was really, really gratifying. The conference itself has grown leaps and bounds every year. We grow about 80 to 100 people every year. This year, we're expecting 500 people. When I started in 2015, it was just shy of 40 people in a room in St. Louis, Missouri. And we were attached to Comfort Tech, and it was just kind of a side event thing. And we did one in Philadelphia the year after that. And then honestly, things kind of started to change when Comfort Tech died. And we got the opportunity to go on our own. And we had our first standalone conference in Fort Worth, Texas. Then we followed that up with one in Denver. And so the Fort Worth, Texas one was in 2017. Denver was in 2018 at the Brown Palace. And that was about 200 some odd people. Then we went to Boston. It was like 250 people in Boston. And that was right before COVID in 2019. Boston was one of my favorite conferences. It was so good. And then we got COVID, and we were like, or we got COVID. We had COVID happen. And then it was like, oh man, what are we going to do with all this momentum? We want to do stuff. And we had a virtual conference, and we had one of the best virtual conferences out there. And I hate virtual conferences. Virtual conferences was more work than I've ever done in my entire life, because you just have to plan every little damn detail. And so we actually had tons of people show up, and it was fun. And we just wanted to see each other and get together. And then after that, we did our beach one in Tampa, and that had just shy of like 300 some odd people in it. And people came and we sat on the sand and we baked under a tent and had a beautiful view of the ocean, but we had content. We got out in breakouts, and it was really good to see each other. Then we had last year in Phoenix, and Phoenix was technically our 19th annual conference, but our 20-year anniversary, because we didn't have a conference the first year we got in inception. So this year's conference is the 20th annual conference. Last year was the 20-year anniversary. So the 20-year anniversary was pretty special for us because we had about 420 people. We had our big gala where we did a lot of awards, had our scholarship winners, had you guys out there, and we had a really big resort. This one in Jacksonville is our 20-year. And we are doing black and gold, and it is called Go Bold. So Jacksonville is actually the bold city. Very few people don't know that, but it's the bold city. And Jacksonville is actually one place that I used to live when I was doing some of the kayak tours early on when I was living in Florida. So my aunt lives there, and so I have a lot of experience there. It's a great city if you guys haven't got a chance. So if anybody going out there like, oh, Jacksonville, Florida, it's cool. Okay, so like get over it. Come on, you know you're going to want to go. But it's Go Bold. We're going to have an activity again prior to the conference, whether it's going to be a scavenger hunt or something. And then we're going to have a bistro night type of welcome reception on Monday. So it is November 6th through the 8th in Jacksonville, Florida, starting on the Monday. And we have a full day of content on the Tuesday. Plus, we're going to have a gala again. It's going to be Gatsby theme. So very roaring 20s or roaring 40s, kind of like that very bold, gold, black type of a very fancy, very, very classy. And then the next day, we're doing a brunch on Wednesday, and we're actually doing a field trip excursion. We're going to take everybody to St. Augustine. Ooh. So that's going to be an optional activity, is we're going to go to St. Augustine. There's talks about things like different tours, but we're looking, this is not set in stone, but potentially doing a catamaran tour with for a sunset tour in the bay there. So there's a couple different things happening. We're going to have our keynote speakers already. It's going to be launched next week. I'm not sure when this is. Well, it's live. But next week, we're going to launch our conference registration. And we're a little bit later than we normally are, but we had a lot of stuff we wanted to put in there before we launched it. So it's going to be launched next week, and we're going to have early bird registration. And then we're going to have raise the price probably August 2nd. So you're going to have like a month to get into early bird, and then it's going to go up after that. We're going to max out though at 500 because we have to have a cap on it. It's hard. We want to be everybody's everything, but sometimes it's just like, you got to create the FOMO, and you either invest in it or you don't. And the thing is once we start scaling this bigger, it's almost harder to do some of the fun stuff and some of the more intimate networking stuff if we get any bigger. Yep. And it kind of takes the fun out of it, because now you're just moving people in logistical nightmare. Right.
Well, and then you also tier it, right? Like that's, nobody likes the tiers either, right? And well, I mean, some people do, but
we kind of do. So like one of the most unique things, I say this for anybody listening to this right now, it's like, it's everybody. It's everybody. It is giving you that vertical to touch everybody in the industry that you normally don't run in circles with. So I love my industry events, but like I go to Hardy for wholesalers and manufacturers. AHR, I see a little bit everybody, but it's mostly manufacturers. Like my Service World Expo and all the other contractor best practice group events and stuff, or ACHA or anything, it's going to be my contractors and maybe some service providers. I love being a service provider because I get to go to all of them. But like Women HVACR, it's like everybody goes, and you get to see the people you want to see. And even our one of the best things I heard that was really endearing in Atlanta last year, when we had this crazy aquarium party, we had our meet and greet at AHR, and it was so packed. Everybody was like, we came because we know the people we want to see are going to be here. and you build that community. And I think that that's the important thing, is like, we didn't start off that way, but we have built it that way and created that network. It really is important, because I think anybody's success or anybody's leverage in any part of their job is going to be with the connections they have and what they can learn from that. And if we have something that kind of builds those bridges easier by creating those events and creating those opportunities, and honestly attracting some of the best and brightest, it just makes for a really, really great event. And I think last year, one of the things I pointed out on stage for my opening address was, we found out really soon that, like, we were inundated with younger individuals. Like, most people were under the age of 30. And suddenly we were used to seeing kind of some of that, but it was usually a good split. It was over half almost were under the age of, I would even say 27, maybe even 26. And it was so nice to see that their companies invested enough to send them first off, which was awesome. But then it made us realize that we have to change up some of our content. Like, we have people just entering, so it's working. So we're seeing momentum, and it's an entirely different generation coming up through the ranks and seeing people who even the industry I joined 10 years ago isn't the same as the one today. And even my mentors, the industry they joined 30 and 40 years ago isn't the same as the one today. So it's nice to see that there's traction. It's nice to see that there's this kind of wave of people coming in, and we just got to be prepared for it and make sure that we're passing along any of the help that we can.
No, and the beautiful things about the event was the fact that there was CSRs there, dispatchers there, techs there, managers there, owners there. It
CEOs.
Right, everything.
The entire gambit. And I remember the first time I heard about HVACR was because we were having Lori Tashal on the show as a guest, and she had just come from the beach party in Tampa. And I started looking at her Facebook when I was researching our guest, and I'm like, what? Where was she? What were they doing? And I got really excited about the event at that point, and I knew that we wanted to be a part of it. So it's been special. It was really cool to be there last year.
Can't wait to be part of it.
Yeah, it's going to be my last one. So I'm like, it's bittersweet that I have to plan. I'll still be.
I was going to say, not your last one.
I don't think I can run away. But last one on the board, and it's been an amazing run. So I think it's kind of like my last event as far as being a planner on the event, if you will. Right. So it'll be interesting to actually go next year and just kind of like chill.
I hope you wrote some great SOPs for everyone else.
I'm trying. Marsha would probably disagree. She'd be like, you need more, because process writing is not my strong suit.
Right.
Well, for those that are wondering, womeninhvacr.org. This is obviously live. The audio will go out probably Friday, Saturday. So
go get registered for the event next week.
Register for the event next week. Go to that website. Make sure you check it out. Sign your team up. It's really it's one of the it is probably the most different conference that I've ever been to in my entire life, and it was so rewarding and so fulfilling to be able to be there. So sign every single one of your female team members up to go there.
Well, and even the email newsletters that they put out too, I still get those, and the book club events that you do and trainings that you do and ongoing content that you put out. It's fantastic. Yeah, they're great. They're absolutely fantastic.
They're worth the price of admission right there. We're doing some regionals too, and we'll have a regional in Milwaukee on August 1st. We're partnering with Carrier. We have a couple other ones we're planning. We're trying to get the best of it. It's like we just have one paid bookkeeper, and we're just starting one paid admin part-time right now too. So it is an all volunteer group, and we are just so inundated with the growth right now that we're just trying to keep our heads above water.
Amazing. Well, anything we can do to help, please let us know. And also, if anyone else is interested in joining, becoming part of the board, go check it out and reach out. Fill out the contact us form and get in touch with Colleen, because she'll definitely point you in the right direction. Sweet. Anything else we want to touch on?
Only thing I was going to mention is my next thing, just to explain what INWIC is. It doesn't really pertain. It's hard for me to talk about just because it's something that doesn't really pertain to too many people here because it's international, but it's kind of neat thing that Women HVACR took the notice of international organizations, because the Women HVACR group is now recognized as the largest group for women in the sector.
Amazing.
And I was like, no, you're kidding. We actually thought they were emailing us for the last couple of years. The UN was emailing us, telling us about this and wanting us to join this group. World Refrigeration Day was a part of it. It was a whole big thing. And we thought it was spam, and we started deleting it. So finally on my presidency, right as I was joining, I had this guy reach out to me on LinkedIn, and he was like, no, we're serious. Like, we want to talk. This whole big international thing. And I was like, yeah, you're crazy. I met with him at the AHR in Vegas, and sure enough, it was a big deal. And they're like, yeah, we already have worked with women's groups in the RACHP and the HVAC industry all over the world. You guys are the largest women's group and the most successful. And we're the only one that doesn't have a parent company. Now, I know that doesn't sound like, oh, okay, whatever. That's a huge deal. That means that our board is solely represented by women from all different parts of the industry, all different walks of life, and all different verticals. And the only thing we answer to is our own policies, our bylaws, and what we vote on. And we don't have political affiliations as a parent group. We don't have a budget maximum or anything from a parent group or like a bigger company that we're answering to. Like, there's a lot of women's groups out there that are subgroups of like other corporate organizations or like diversity and inclusion efforts or anything like that. We are a 21-year-old organization that has over 1,000 members that answers to itself. Mm-hmm. And that was huge to see, especially if you think of other countries, Mexico, India, getting into like Norway, what they're doing in Dubai, what they're doing in Africa. All of these different things even have more cultural hurdles than we do. Like, we have definitely not arrived anywhere in the States, but we are doing pretty okay when you consider what women in other parts of the world are facing to even be considered into engineering jobs or technical jobs or getting involved in the RACHP industry in general, because they don't talk about it. I mean, just think of how horrible we don't talk about that stuff. So the whole point of INWIC is the United Nations Environmental Program, the UN, and the World Refrigeration Day got together as a secretariats, and they invited 14 other worldwide organizations. There's several from different countries: Africa, France, United Kingdom, China, Japan are involved, India. They're everywhere. And so ASHRAE and Women in HVACR are also involved in that. And our whole point is to get those organizations together to help build other women's organizations in other countries. Since starting it, I got chosen as president last year, which was pretty daunting. I just got back from Italy, where I was speaking at their European conference, and I've done 2 different keynote addresses virtually, because I can't travel everywhere, for like Denmark and for Ireland, to encourage them on their first meeting as a women's group for their sector. Wow. For those countries. So it's crazy to think of, but we're just taking what we've already done and trying to share some of those best practices or what works for us, or try to share those resources so they can skip the learning curve and be able to encourage more women to get into the field.
Love it.
So cool.
Bam.
Well, and what a great lesson too for anyone that's listening. I mean, even in their own business, stand on the shoulders of giants, look for others that have already done what it is that you want to do, learn the lessons, take the shortcuts, and compress decades into days, right? It took you 21 years to get to where you're at, of 1,000 members, 500 people showing up to an event. You know, for that group in Denmark or that group in Australia to be able to take that leap and to hit that mark in 3 years instead of 20 is massive in terms of impact. So it's fantastic to see you doing that.
It's pretty daunting, but it is an exciting opportunity. I wish it was paid. I wish all of this was paid sometimes, but I love it. So I really
can't. Was it a paid trip at least?
Parts of it, not all of it. I remember, like I said, like it's starting in the early days where when the HVACR was in the early days, that's kind of where we're at now.
Right.
So eventually the presidential suites will come in.
Eventually.
Right. and then you can do all that travel. You can go to Ireland.
Right.
You can go to like everywhere, right? Vacation the whole day long. Like, I'm just a representative.
Just jet setting. For sure.
You know, I don't even really know where to wrap this up at, but other than phenomenal information across the board from start to finish, and really what you guys are doing and what you are doing in the Women in HVACR to spread the word is just absolutely phenomenal. I'm looking forward to getting some face-to-face time with you and everybody else down at the Women in HVACR event. However, we do have one last question here for you, Colleen.
All right.
What is one question that you wished people would ask you more, but don't?
Ooh. honestly, and you guys actually did a good job of it. Sometimes I'm like, maybe I'm just too much out there with, and I suffer my own business sometimes, but sometimes it's getting into the online access stuff or what actually happens with the marketing. Believe it or not, I do have a paid job and a day job. And it's one of those things where I do speak on that stuff a lot and do a lot of training and stuff. And so you guys actually touched on some of that as far as getting into some of those issues. I am very passionate about the women's issues and definitely industry wide or even internationally, but it is hard sometimes to find the balance of all the different hats I wear. And so that when I'm on any of these, sometimes it's like I have to touch on that too and be like, hey guys, I do have a day job. Like it still happens. And so I guess you guys already kind of did that. So maybe that sounds like a lame answer, but that's actually the number one thing.
No, I'm gonna pivot that because we already answered that question. Normally we ask, okay, well, explain, right? But we already did that. Balancing the hats, and I think that when you look at business owners and entrepreneurs, they always want to give back. They always want to do multiple things. They want to just go all in on everything. How do you adequately balance all the hats that you wear?
I am very fortunate that I have had the constant support of my father for sure, because I definitely get a lot of anonymity for whatever I want to do. This is some of the stuff that scares me for considering other opportunities sometimes, because when you work into a bigger corporate job, you lose a lot of your anonymity and you have to run everything up a flagpole. And I love that I'm able to jump in or jump out or add to publications without going through legal, or go to this event or decide where we're going as a group and stuff. And I know so many of my friends don't have that. Yeah, you have other perks with that, but you lose your identity because you have to be part of the corporate machine and you have to run everything through legal. I have been very blessed and fortunate to be given the opportunities. And I will say it has paid off for online access too. I've been able to get online opportunities for my own business that normally wouldn't be available if I didn't have the connections I had. And it's paid off, but it is a long-term game. And as far as I don't have children currently, I have 2 dogs, 2 cats, and a husband. And that's pretty easy to manage at the moment. So I know that women my age have kids, and that becomes a whole new orbit. And right now, as I'm enjoying where I'm at right now and what that demands, and a lot of it is some of the travel. Like I think today you guys mentioned that I'm in my office today, which is a Marriott hotel room.
But think of the rewards.
Yeah, I will say some of those rewards pay for my trip to Italy. So it was really nice to have that. But it's one of those things where I do have a really good team. My teammate, Rachel, like she keeps me pretty grounded. So she's like the one behind the scenes. Everybody has to have a person in the chair. And so like, I may not be the most organized individual, but she is. And so she keeps me on point. And like, I love that I'm able to share all of my contacts and give her all of the information that I had. Like, I wish I had when I was starting out like she was. And if I can help her skip that learning curve, it's even better. But I do have a good team. And I think some of it comes to like, I'm just always available. So there are some downsides. I love that people are always like, oh, you have to have work-life balance and your phone has to turn off at certain times because you have to do this for you. I'm not happy when I do that. And I know that sounds probably super lame. Like there's something psychologically wrong with me and I probably need to see a shrink. But like, I do live out of pocket. And so much of what I can get accomplished sometimes is through Slack or being through my email or being available to do jump on a podcast or whatever I need to do from wherever I'm at. Because if I just shut everything down because I'm traveling for something, I would never get anything done. And especially even like I had a great vacation last week. I got to go tour Italy. Was I doing some work on some of the days I could? Absolutely. Because I think it's even worse if I have to come home and I have to dig out. And for me, that's what works right now. Don't get me wrong. I have my playtime and I'm able to do my stuff, and my husband, I have our weekends and stuff like that. And I think that you don't see on social media is me sitting in front of my couch, like in like sweatpants with my dogs, binging on Netflix. And like, that is like maybe my decompression time, you know, but obviously that's not glamorous on social media, but there are times that I do have to myself. I'm able to stay local, but I do like being available. I do like being able to run everything from where I'm at. And that makes it easier for me, but that's just what works for me.
Totally.
Love it.
I've always loved it was a lesson from The One Thing with Gary Keller, and he talks about intentional imbalance, right? Mm-hmm. Where it's I'm all in on work right now, or I'm all in on play right now. And it's being intentional with those imbalances. Everyone talks about, oh, well, we need a good work-life balance. And that's just not the case, especially for entrepreneurs. Like a true entrepreneur, you can't sit on your hands. Like you have to be going all the time. It's just a mindset. It's who you are. It's a part of you. So why would you try to restrict that?
And honestly, you probably might find this too, but like being a service provider, like summer is like, I'm like a teacher, right? Like you're at summer vacation. My contractors hate talking to me in the summer. Like fall and spring, we're inundated with all the travels, with all the trainings, with all the different shows, with all the different, and then like January is like our busy season. Like that is when everybody's changing things up and it's like you're inundated. And so like when it gets to be June and it's suddenly hot out, everybody's like the phone, like we can have like dead days. So we use that time to shore up projects. Sometimes I'll take vacations. My team will take vacations because nobody wants to talk to us. So we'll work on internal stuff generally while we're doing everything else. And we'll have calls, of course, but it's not the same as like the fall and winter. Not at all.
Yeah. Fall and winter is all the strategy. It's planning. It's making sure that everything during this time is executing at an efficient rate. Right? And now is the time for us where we get to take a pause and take a step back. We're not prospecting as much. We're not diving into the sales as much. And we're just fine tuning every little thing.
I'd be lucky if I get a contractor to return my emails.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the way it should be.
That's right. I'm glad they're busy.
Absolutely. Awesome.
So there is an ebb and flow, like you said, and it's not an all in all the time. I think you have to be intentional with what you're putting your time into for sure. And I don't want to half-ass anything, but I do know that it changes from week to week and I'm flexible that way.
Love it. Colleen, this has been an absolute treat. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for sharing about women in HVACR. It's something we talk about often in terms of our experience there because it was phenomenal. We definitely want to see more people there this year. We want to see it sell out by August 1st.
Probably. I'm hoping we'll find out. But like just I said, the procrastinators, but they won't get the good pricing. You guys, honestly, thank you so much for the opportunity. But thank you for the support of the organization. You guys coming out, and it was super last minute, I know, because you guys were like, yeah, we're going. Okay, we're gonna get you a spot. Okay, we'll go. And you guys made the best of it, which was awesome.
I think we ended up having to stay at the hotel across the interstate too because there was no spaces. It was sold out. It was sold out. And then
I did call you and I found rooms, I remember, and you were like, it's all right, we're fine.
Yeah. Well, you called me like, so we booked it, and then it's like, oh shit, we can't cancel it. Otherwise, we're paying the full room.
I was going to say, that's cheap. He doesn't book the one where it's like, oh, you can cancel it up to 24 hours. It's like, no, you pay full price now and there's no refund and you got a 10%
just to save $40.
Even if it felt, no, it was a little bit more than that. It was like, I think it was like at least $80 a night over like the 4 nights that we were there. So like, you know,
I was wheeling and dealing.
And if the conference fell through, I would just go golfing.
That's some people. Well, I think I'll see you guys in Phoenix for Service World. But you guys be going to that one at all or no?
Yeah, we're looking at it. We
haven't finalized our fall schedule yet.
Yeah, we're looking at showing up to the event, not having a booth at the event.
Yeah.
All right. What about like things like Pantheon or anything like that? All right, because I'm sure we'll see each other after the summer. I'm going to be probably at everywhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Well, until next time. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Well, that's a wrap on another episode of HVAC Success Secrets Revealed. Before you go, 2 quick things. First off, join our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/HVAC Revealed. The other thing, if you took one tiny bit of information out of this show, no matter how big, no matter how small, all we ask is for you to introduce this to one person in your contacts list. That's it. That's all. One person. So they too can unleash the ultimate HVAC business. Until next time, cheers.